I'm just going to start off because I know you recently overcame a battle, and I guess you were one of the lucky ones to get COVID-19. Is that correct?
I was, yeah. I mean, the definition of it as a battle, I guess, is all relative. You know.
Sure, sure. But you look good, so I take it you made it out okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I think like a month out now at this point.
Okay.
About a month ago, I had it. So yeah, we had to obviously reschedule this podcast because it was actually the day before I was supposed to do this that I found out.
I told Joe, I go, it's too bad like that would have been an awesome interview while you were battling COVID doing the interview, but
Right. Or I get a text to tell me I'm positive while I'm doing the interview. That would have been fun.
that would have been great. There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. You know, people always say, Kris, how can I be a successful broker? It's two words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Entrepreneurs in Finance, where we explore the daily lives of graduates and lenders, part of the CCTG program. And this episode, I'm very proud and excited to interview Ian Tucker of Grafton Funding. Hey, Ian.
Hey, Kris, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Yeah,
Are
good.
all things good?
All things good. Yeah, all things good in this crazy world we live in right now.
It is. It is. No, I'm just going to start off because I know you recently overcame a battle, and I guess you were one of the lucky ones to get COVID-19. Is that correct?
I was, yeah. I mean, the definition of it as a battle, I guess, is all relative. You know.
Sure, sure. But you look good, so I take it you made it out okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I think like a month out now at this point.
Okay.
About a month ago, I had it. So yeah, we had to obviously reschedule this podcast because it was actually the day before I was supposed to do this that I found out.
I told Joe, I go, it's too bad like that would have been an awesome interview while you were battling COVID doing the interview, but
Right. Or I get a text to tell me I'm positive while I'm doing the interview. That would have been fun.
that would have been great. But no, in all seriousness, I thank you for doing this. I appreciate it, and it's good to see that you're doing well,
Sure.
and you're kind of back in action here. So, tell me, when did you come through the training? What month?
January this year, so January 2020. So I am, what am I now? 11 months out.
11 months out. Okay,
Yeah.
11 months out. Tell me about what was life like prior to CCTG, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were in one of our last live classes, correct?
Right. So I guess, I mean, everything kicked off kind of mid-March. So I guess February was probably your last live one.
February was the last live one, correct? Yeah. Okay.
So before that, yeah.
So what'd you do before? What was your life like prior to CCTG?
My life was very stressful. So I was, I'm not American, I'm Irish. I've lived here since 2015. My wife is American. So for 20 years, I owned and operated restaurants and bars back in Ireland for 15, and then 5 here. I live in Houston, so 5 in Houston. And obviously, being in the restaurant business, it's a very stressful business. It's a lot of hours, it's a lot of weekends, it's a lot of nights. It's people have the impression that restaurant business is like you're rolling in cash all the time, and it's such a great life. And the opposite is true. You know, it's tough business. So I had a very pretty stressful life and a lot of workload and a lot of hours, and didn't get to spend a lot of quality time with my family, which was not a lot of fun.
Well, and tell me about that. So you actually were in Ireland, and you owned what, pubs?
Right. So I had 3 venues in Ireland. Yeah. So myself and a high school friend of mine opened our first one in. Pretty smart. We opened our first one in 2009, right when the whole world was falling apart economically.
Right.
Which we saw it as an opportunity, I guess, to take advantage of great pricing and great leases and all that kind of stuff, So we did that. We were like 29 years old at the time, and it went super. We live in Dublin, Ireland. Obviously, being the age we were, we knew a lot of people, so our bar was full a lot of the time. A lot of people we know. And then we went from strength to strength. Ended up within 5 years, we had 3 venues.
Wow.
Yeah, and then in 2014, I met a lady from Houston who was on vacation there in one of my bars. And then about a year later, I told my business partner I was getting out of there and moving and leaving him the keys.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a love story, huh?
Yeah, right. You know,
What a
if
love
this doesn't work out, I'll write a book.
Well, that's one of the joy. I mean, look at that. One of the joys of owning a pub is you met your wife.
Totally, yeah. So very stressful time, but my life is the way it is now, and I live here, and I have my wife and child because I did that. So yeah, for sure.
Because you did that. I feel as though being that you're from Ireland, like that's the creme de la creme of pub owners, right? I mean, Ireland is like if you could start a bar in Ireland and a pub and have it be successful, man, you could do anything in that business.
I would like to think so. Yeah, I would like to think so. Unfortunately, though, I would have thought that, but I then moved to America and started doing the same here. And then, 8 months ago, a pandemic hit, and unfortunately, I couldn't do anything, and I lost the restaurant because of that. So my restaurant is now closed. Yeah. So I certainly would have thought, yeah, being from Ireland in the pub business, I could do anything, but no, not everything.
Not everything. So you guys, I guess you didn't really have a chance to even adapt because what state are you from again?
Texas.
Texas. Okay. Did they totally shut everything down?
Yeah, so we were shut down. Ironically enough, given that I'm Irish, we were shut down on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and the shutdown lasted maybe like 6 weeks or so, 6 or 7 weeks, something like that. But you know, like a lot of businesses, we just didn't have the cash to get out of it. You know.
Right. That's kind of timely. I mean, in that, you know, I guess you attended CCTG. The original game plan was to kind of get another opportunity going while kind of massaging, you know, the restaurant / pub that you had here, right?
Right. Yeah. So I was certainly thinking for a while about, you know, after 20 years needing to get out of the restaurant and bar game. You know, it's a long time, and I have a 3.5-year-old son. You know, so it's a tough gig. You know, you can only do it for so long. So I was definitely searching for ways to get out, and I didn't know how that looked, if I was going to like sell it or, you know, what I was going to do. I was just kind of trying to figure out first what I would do post restaurant and bars.
Yep.
And ended up doing CCTG. Yeah. So I kind of literally bought like 2 months before the restaurant shut down. I did the training. So I was like just kicking it off. So in some ways that I was very lucky on the timing in some ways. You know?
On the timing of it. Yeah. So you went through training. I'll kind of take a step back, you know, in that January training. What were you thinking? What were you thinking that first day leading up to that Monday when you went into class? I mean, were you nervous?
I mean, as you always joke when you first walk into the class, you know, everyone can relax. This is a real place. It's a building. You know, you didn't walk up to an empty door and you realize you've written a check for nothing and you got ripped off, you know. So of course those things are going through your mind. You know, I'm saying that half jokingly. My wife was a little worried about that, but I was pretty comfortable with it, you know. But I mean, I was pretty confident and said, I'm not really, I moved on it pretty quick. I only came across you guys probably like November, so 2 months before.
Okay.
So I moved on it pretty fast. I actually, I did obviously my due diligence and research and spoke to Mike a couple of times, but didn't do as much due diligence as I think a lot of other people have done, and certainly talking to other graduates. Right. I'm not really a procrastinator. When I decide to do something, I just do it. So I kind of made my mind up before the class that this is great. This is awesome. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And then obviously once you stepped in, we have a real building, you know, real conference room, all those kind of primitive, you know, anxieties probably went away, I would assume.
Right. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
And so you went through training, and I always ask people, what were you thinking that week after? So when you got home, were you just like, Jesus Christ, I'm overwhelmed? Were you excited?
Yeah, I wasn't really feeling overwhelmed. I was definitely excited. I was ready, honestly. I mean, honestly, like, you know, when you leave the class and you always say to everyone, look, you know, go home, take a week, like, you know, there's a lot to process, etc. I was kind of the opposite. I mean, some of the nights during the training, I was back in my hotel room reaching out to the lenders already. Like,
oh, wow. Okay.
Set up and making contact and making a plan and all that. I'm kind of analytically minded, and I kind of like to have plans and procedures and kind of give myself to-do lists, I guess, and check them off. So I was ready to go, and like I had my website ready before I even did the course.
Yeah.
or to the class. So I was just excited, I guess, and just like ready to go, you know.
Right.
Which I'm lucky I was, because it gave me, before lockdown, it gave me 2 months to actually go do stuff.
To actually go do stuff. Yeah. 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 Do stuff, as we say, like go out and meet people and
Exactly.
network. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I was excited about this interview, because, you know, in learning about kind of what happened, it's a very unique scenario of, you know, your original goal was to have an out, right? Here's my new thing. Let me try to find an out with my old thing.
Yeah.
But as nobody saw coming, you just kind of got forced out. I mean, you know, it didn't agree with COVID. Didn't agree with your timeline, right?
Yeah, the gradual out suddenly became you're off the field. Let's go.
Right, right. So talk to me about that adjustment, and also too. I mean, I've interviewed some other grads on here that were similar to you. We actually had, gosh, was Brandon Bartelli in your class?
No.
Brandon in your class? Brandon was I think he was in February, but same thing. He got his business launched and then COVID hit. I mean, granted, he didn't have another business, so he went all in immediately, but you were kind of forced to go all in, right? When
I was forced to go all in. Yeah, I was because I suddenly lost my income. You know, I suddenly didn't have anything else. And again, I've got a wife and a child, and my wife's a hairdresser. Her business was shut down.
Oh,
so
God.
yeah, I mean, it was like, okay, I'm like, I need to get on this, like, and get going, and I can't really wait around, you know?
Right, right. And, you know, that's important. I'd like to focus on that a little bit, if you will, because just, you know, I interviewed a lot of, actually, this last podcast, I think we're publishing this week, right, Joe, with Joe Theismann. So we did our conference, and Joe Theismann, the famous Hall of Fame quarterback, Redskins, he was in our office here, and I interviewed him, and Joe's a motivational speaker. And one of the lead questions I asked him, which I kind of stumped him a little bit, but I said, listen, Joe, you're in the business of motivational speaking. And I go, do you believe you can teach motivation? And then I followed that up, and I said, I don't believe you can teach motivation. I'm a firm believer you can't teach it. It's either you have it or you don't. And if you don't have it, you can get it, but there has to be something deep down inside which forces you, almost like a primal instinct, to do what you have to do. So to circle back to your situation, that must have overcame you, right? Because all of a sudden you're like, shit, my plan blew up. Fortunately, I have this other opportunity, but did that primal instinct kick in and say, I got to get my shit together and totally concentrate on this?
For sure. And I was kind of lucky in that, again, because I pre-planned quite a few things. Like, you know, when we left the class, it would have been like, you know, the third week of January or whatever.
Right.
And you know, most of the other people in the class, you know, in talking with Alex and your marketing team, you know, most of them would kick off their marketing, etc., March 1st, you know, give them a full month plan. I was like, I want to go February 1st. I'm ready. Like, just do it.
Just do it.
So I was kind of lucky in that. And I was also lucky that I had like the bit between my teeth and the motivation to do it, but more so, as you just said, it wasn't from a primal survival instinct. It was more just, I'm like, I really want to do this. Like, I'm ready.
Yeah, you were excited.
But for sure, suddenly 2 months later, it was like, okay, wow. I mean, yeah, great. I've been really at this and I've been going at it, but, you know, more to lay the groundwork for a long-term plan. All of a sudden, it's like, shit, like, this is all I've got.
Right. So now it's all hands on deck.
Hands on deck. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, I'm sure that happened with a lot of graduates right around the same time frame that kind of had CCTG as like plan B. Like, and people come into it and say, I got something going already. I'm going to start this. I'm going to give myself 12 months, you know, but all of a sudden, if that other option goes away, then you got to kick into full gear. So having said that, you know, you kicked into full gear. Tell me about those first couple of months. I mean, what were you doing? What are some things you were doing, particularly when COVID hit?
Yeah, I mean, again, that first 6 weeks, like I said, I just went at it and I did the things that we discussed in class about getting out there. I joined 2 chambers of commerce within a week, joined a B&I group within a week.
Okay.
And I joined like a commercial real estate network. I joined the restaurant association. I mean, a lot of things. And I just got out there and started meeting people and shaking hands and networking. And I like that environment anyway, I guess, from my restaurant background. I'm kind of used to that, you know, just walking up to a table with strangers and talking to them.
Social. Yeah, you come from a social environment.
Right. So, you know, so I was kind of blessed I had that period, because then when COVID hit, obviously all that stuff was gone, that's all out the window. There's no going shaking people's hands and going to networking events. And, yeah, for sure, in the months that followed, things like Chambers got
people adapted. Yeah. Zoom, things like that.
Right. I mean, even still, I guess we'll get into it a bit later, but even still, that's not really me. I don't like that virtual networking thing. It's just, I'm not good at it, and I don't like it really. I prefer one-on-ones like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had that period, and that kind of stood to me a lot, I think. And like even just that short period of 7 or 8 weeks, all those people I met stood to me in the 6 months after that when I couldn't go do those things. So I was kind of a bit lucky in that regard. And yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to do all that again. I really am. Like
we all are.
Yeah, we all are. Yeah, we all are. But I just can't wait because, I mean, even I get some grad or potential grad students of yours calling me just to chat about the course and what my thoughts are and stuff. And, they ask me how much I'm working, and I kind of answer with, well, I mean, officially not a huge amount because I can't go do stuff, it's hard. Like I'm kind of like, I'm on my phone, I'm on my computer all the time, obviously, but I'll be working a lot more when I can actually go into businesses and go be business owners and go network,
Sure. I mean, we have found that, a lot of graduates have really, whether you like it or not, embraced the whole, whether it's FaceTime or the Zoom thing to kind of do some of those one-on-one networking.
I do a lot of one-on-ones, obviously through BNI, we call it one-to-ones. I do a lot of one-on-ones. Love it. Great. And it's more the group thing, like again, a local chamber will have.
I don't like the group thing.
A group networking for the local chamber. And you're like, it's just, there's 50 faces on the screen. And you're like, how do I get across who I am and my personality? Because this business is all about personality.
Sure.
Talking to people. Like, that's what it's all about.
Well, it is. I mean, I always say you have to be a people person in this business.
You have to be.
You come from a people-oriented business prior anyway, so you're a great person, great conversationalist, great to talk to. And
you don't have to be like the entertainer of the room.
No.
You can't be the shy person sitting in the corner. I mean, it's all about connecting with people, I guess. I mean, what I've kind of learned a lot is people like to do business with people, as opposed to doing business with a business.
Correct.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. I mean, we've had we're fortunate enough to be able to listen into conversations of our graduates through our lead program because we record all those call-ins, I should say. Number one, to count the amount of leads we give to keep track of it, but also for quality assurance. Sometimes we look at the grad and there's some graduates that, man, on paper, on paper, it's like MBA, they're a banker, they're in finance, blah, 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 blah. But when they get on the phone and they actually take a sales call, they actually suck on the phone. Like they don't have and you can tell just by listening in. I've listened to some of them with our team. Who the hell would want to do business with them just because of the way they answer questions or not answer questions, or just some of them come off very rude over the phone too. And it's just like, it supports the point of people like to do business with people, not the business.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's funny, before I went into this, the one thing I was concerned about, and I do originally have a bit of a finance background in terms of study. My degree is economics and math.
Okay.
So I get the number side. So that didn't scare me at all.
Right.
The actual products, I wasn't scared of that at all. But I definitely, one of my concerns was, is this going to be a bit too corporate for me? Because I'm not corporate at all. Like, that's just not me. I don't own a suit. I never wear a tie. I'm wearing like a short sleeve button down. This is about as dressed as I get.
Yeah.
It's not me. And I think that was a concern for me, but very quickly I learned actually probably the opposite is true.
Correct.
That a lot of the time, the corporate world, either the business owner doesn't want to deal with someone who's too corporate because they don't trust them. Or, as you said, sometimes people from the corporate world just don't have that ability to talk to people because everything has been so structured and rule oriented in the world they come from.
What we find with some of the bankers, not all, that attend our training, is that they're used to such a routine where borrower walks into the bank and they're like, they don't even talk to them. They're like, hey, fill out this application, give me 3 years tax returns, a balance sheet, 3 months bank statements, and then we'll see what we have going on. They don't even just take the time to understand their business. And part of our struggle here is trying to train them and look, it's a different ball game now. You're not the bank.
Yeah. And that's so important. I mean, so important. Like, I tell people all the time, I'll get a call from someone I know, someone in town or my BNI group, someone, hey, I know this person, they need some money, but honestly, for now, they just really want someone to answer questions for them, and just that they can shoot some stuff off, but they don't want to feel that they're being taken advantage of or put into something they don't want to do. And the same thing, they've talked to their bank, and that's the way the bank behaves. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. Like, I'll take phone calls all day from people, even if I know before I'm not getting a deal out of it. No problem. I'll answer their questions. I'll help them out. And there's two reasons. One is I've been them. I've been that. I've been the business owner. Like, I've done it. And then secondly, I'm just a big believer in karma. Like, that person in 5 years might have 8 businesses and they're still using me for financing, or they might tell this guy who does 10 fix and flips a year, hey, this guy was really good to me, he's really nice, you should give him a call. I'm a big believer in that. So yeah, I mean, it's as you said, there's a big difference between that corporate banking world and what we do. Like, it's a really big difference. And I don't think that was clear to me before I did the course. I don't think
it wasn't. Yeah, it became clear once you were immersed into it. Yeah, I can see that. I think another point that a lot of graduates underestimate is, a lot of the borrowers you may be dealing with, depending on how you market and concentrate, have been turned down by a bank. Yeah. And I know, just being in this business for so long, sometimes borrowers just get like a notification, an email saying you've been declined, and that's it. I mean, there's no one calling them saying, hey, maybe in a couple months, or if you do this right, or if you do this wrong. They just get an electronic email saying you've been declined.
Or a letter in the mail, even worse.
Or a letter in the mail. So they may be, and that kind of suit mentality, that banker mentality, they may be gun shy about, doing that all over again and feeling those emotions. So
it's about them, in those situations. It's about them not trusting the people they have dealt with in the past, whether that be the local banker who, like you said, was either rude or just declined it or whatever, or they've been online and they've got taken advantage of by effectively a loan shark. Right. And they just, they don't trust people. And it's about just gaining their trust and being you and a person, and they get to know you. And,
right.
Hey, this is a picture of my wife and son. Here's my home address. Like, this is where I live. Like, I'm just a guy. Like,
you're just, well, again, I think you bring a unique perspective because you were that guy. You were that small business owner that, can empathize with the business owner at whatever they're dealing with.
And part of actually the reason I did this particular thing as my plan B is because as a business owner, I've been in the position of finding it hard to find capital. And not knowing where to go or who to turn to, and kind of ended up doing a little bit of business consulting with people on that side of things, like kind of helping them, and then kind of thought, why don't I just do this myself? Like,
right.
That's kind of why I got into it a little bit, I guess.
Right. That's great. I mean, I always say, just be yourself. If you be honest and be yourself, and sometimes graduates will say, well, gee, how do I keep a borrower with me? How do I prevent them from shopping? Sometimes it's the simplest answers, which are the best ones. And I find if you're just yourself and you generally care, you're going to stand out from the other people that they may talk to, because so many people are what you and I are talking about. They're just straight, here's this, I'll send you this, send it back to me, and then we can talk. They're not generally willing to sit down and just talk to them,
and not be pushy. That's a big thing. I'm not pushy with people. I'm very much, look, this is the best financing I can get you for what you need. I believe this is a good thing for you to do. If you don't want to do it, that's cool. Like, that's your call, but where I am. If you need me, give me a call. Or sometimes, honestly, I'll say to people, look, like, I don't think this is the right move for you. Like, you're going to get this. I don't know if you're going to be able to pay it back. It's not the right move. Just don't do this. I'm doing myself out of a deal there, but I'm like, look, and because I guess my background, I can look at their books and say, look, fix this, sort out your business, come back to me in 6 months, and you'll be in a better position, So, and again, it's just relating to people and knowing they can trust you, and you're not trying to screw them over, and you're not just trying to like take your check and run away and sweet happy days. Care about them and their business, and that's all it comes down to.
Right. That's a very honest approach, and I think the best approach, is to do what's good for the customer.
Yeah.
Not so much what your commission check would be.
Right.
Do what's best for the customer. And now, so tell me about, okay, so you get into it, you start looking at opportunities. Tell me about, one of your first deals? If you want to, if you don't mind telling me kind of the problem you fixed or what the client scenario was, and
Yeah, my first one was so when I left, the first thing I did actually before I even started doing networking events was I emailed, called, or texted every person I know in America. Now, again, I've only been here 5 years. That's not a huge amount of people, but I had a restaurant here, so I knew some people.
Mhm.
I basically told everyone what I'm now doing, and and I kind of tried to focus as well on vendors I had in the restaurant business. So, for example, the guy that supplied me with a coffee machine.
Mm-hmm.
There's one example. So, about let's say I finished the course in January, so maybe like April, mid-April, I get a call from that guy who's selling the coffee machine. He's like, "Hey, I've got a customer. They want to buy an expensive coffee machine. They don't have the money. Like they're not buying it outright. Can you do some financing?" And I was obviously astute enough, I guess, coming from what you guys told us though, to tell this guy, the coffee machine guy, "Hey, anything you send me, I'm going to cut you in. I'm going to give you a percentage of what I make
You
for
could. You could. It's an option. Yeah, for a vendor, you could.
yeah, a referral agreement.
Right.
So it was a local coffee company. They've got a few venues, and they just wanted to upgrade. It's obviously a cafe, so they spend a lot of money on their machines.
Right.
It was like a 50 grand coffee machine. I did equipment financing with one of the CCTG lenders, and yeah, it was all done in like 2.5 weeks, closed.
Wow.
So that was my first one. So it was a small one, but that's great. I mean,
No, that's great. I mean, so what did you feel like after that? Did you feel, because a lot of grads feel like until they close their first deal, they can kind of be like, okay, I can do this from start to finish. Because it's one thing if we talk about it, it's one thing if you talk to a graduate who's done it, but to do it yourself, did you feel kind of relieved? Like, that was probably one of your first goals, right? Get a deal in.
It was for sure. And I was also relieved because, I mean, breaking it down, it was the start of income when I lost my income, and that was part of it, And also as well, I'd had a few deals before that even not go through, and they fall apart at the end, and it just happens for whatever reason, or, so, and that's fine though, because it's all a learning curve for me too. It's like, well, why is this going to fall apart? What's going to happen? So now I can see stuff beforehand and figure out what a problem might be. So there is that sense of relief when you get it done, yeah, for sure. And like, yeah, great, you just gain confidence. I mean, that's what it's all about. You just gain confidence, and you're like, right, now I want the next one. And it's not even, yes, of course, it was like, okay, great, that's a bit of income, given the position we're in. But also, it's not so much about the money. It's actually more about the shot of confidence you get. I'm like, yeah, I want that feeling again. I want to close another deal and be like,
felt good.
Yeah, and I'm helping the business owner, which feels good too, and I'm helping the equipment vendor, which feels good too. So everyone wins,
Everybody wins, absolutely. And that's great. And so that was what, in March?
Like April, yeah, end of April, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. And I'll of course I'll ask you about this because I know you did a testimonial for us, a formal testimonial, but you had recently closed a fairly large deal.
Yeah.
You want to tell me about that? And the reason I knew that before you agreed to do a testimonial, because I got a call from the lender and they said, "Hey, just to let you know, one of your graduates just closed a really huge deal with us. You mind telling me about that?" I mean, that's a big accomplishment. And that's a big, I'll tell you, in the equipment finance world, that's a huge deal.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And that came from, being honest, when I said I left the course and I texted, emailed, and called everybody I know in America. It actually came from an Irish guy that I knew in Houston that I'd had a few beers with sometimes, friend of a friend, played golf with him once, nice guy. He'd moved up to Baltimore, and I knew in his company he was pretty high up and he's doing well. And he's one of the people I said, "Hey, look, this is what I'm doing now. If you hear of anything going on, you obviously know a lot of people in the business world. It'd be awesome. Just send it my way. Do me a favor. Great." So he was like, "Yeah, no problem." And then maybe like 2 months later, he gives me a call and he's like, "Hey, I might have something for you." Another company I know is they're doing a refinance of some heavy equipment, some transport equipment. It's a $6.6 million deal, and they're basically bidding it. They're looking for who can do the best job for them. So I was like, great, happy days. Call Mac from you guys, from CCTG. He pointed me in the right direction on what lender to speak with. 5 minutes later, I had that lender on the phone. and he was just awesome, great to work with. And me and him get on very well, and we get a good kick off each other. He's really good to work with, and yeah, it went great. It took a little longer than we expected, but that was more down to the borrower side of things, you know, because they were obviously kicking it out because they're competing offers coming in, and they're, you know, of course. But yeah, it all worked out, and it closed. I mean, I think that first came to me around June maybe, and it closed the end of September.
All right, so yeah, a couple months, which is expected for a deal like that.
Yeah.
That's typical. And you got a nice paycheck, right?
Yeah, got like 49 grand.
Yeah, 49 grand. That's awesome. That's awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah, no, particularly what's going on right now. Absolutely. Congratulations on that. And where have you kind of morphed? Because we always say to concentrate on things, right? I mean, it's you know, the kind of form a niche. So is your niche equipment lending or equipment financing, or?
No, it's not. And I kind of tried to do that at the start. And I guess because of my restaurant background, I kind of zeroed in on equipment financing, but more like small dollar stuff. Because, you know, obviously in the hospitality world, equipment financing is huge. I mean, I did equipment financing as a restaurant owner. I mean, it's huge, you know, all your kitchen equipment and all this kind of stuff. Right. So I focused in on that a little bit. And then I didn't know much about the lending side of it, but I watched HGTV all the time. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do like investment property financing. That's kind of cool. You know, I like that. So that's kind of what I wanted to focus on. But honestly, once COVID hit, I was like, it's too risky for me to try and niche it because I don't have yet the network and the contacts and the experience to really niche down too much. So as much as I still kind of did a bit more reaching out to people in those worlds, I very much kept myself open to anything. And, you know, the deals I've closed at this point, they're a bit of everything. A couple of fix and flips, small equipment financing, big equipment financing, an SBA real estate,
okay.
A couple of working capitals. So I'm generalizing still, you know.
You're kind of in limbo to figure out what your niche is because you're just kind of closing a little bit of.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a big part of that is just because of the COVID scenario. And I can't, you know, if I want to focus on investment property financing, for example, I can't go to commercial real estate networking events right now because they're not happening. So I think because of the situation we're in, and I guess also as well, I know from other grads, and I've watched a couple of these podcasts, you know, and you've talked about in the COVID world, you know, some people who were focusing on certain things and maybe have been doing it for like 3 or 4 years, all of a sudden they're like, whoa, I need to like divert over to this product because our pivot is what I was looking for, because this is actually now how I'm going to get through this. Right. So I guess I just stay general, and, you know, I still market and promote myself as being able to do all commercial financing. I definitely plan for next year to kind of zero in more on something. I think it's probably going to be the whole real estate world, not just investment property financing, but I like doing, I like looking at SBA owner occupied commercial real estate. I like that. Again, the business owners I can relate to. Yeah. So I think that's probably what I will niche into, but I'm still a little unsure. I'm keeping the diversification for now. Keeping your options open.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I also think, you know, I always say when you go out and you network, which I do think, you know, first, second quarter of next year, things will get better, particularly with
I think by May, we're going to be pretty much.
Yeah. People are going to be starting to travel again. But my point is, when you network, you're kind of everything to anybody. You're a chameleon, as I always say, right? Depending on who you're talking to. But
yeah, I use that trick of yours. I'll talk about it. I use that trick of yours all the time.
Which one is that?
The one where you tell the story about, or you tell someone, hey, when you guys are flying home, the grad who's sitting on the airplane, he's like, oh, you're in the restaurant business? I specialize in financing for the restaurant business. Correct. I do that all the time. Yeah, all the time.
And has it worked?
If you're in the HVAC business, I specialize in financing for the HVAC business. You know,
absolutely. I mean, it makes that relationship, you know, a little more trustworthy, right?
Yeah, and I'm not lying. I do specialize in it. I specialize in all those areas.
You specialize in 50 things, or yeah. No one's saying a number what you can no one's ever come down and said, well, you could only specialize in one thing. I mean, to anybody, you could specialize in 50 things. Who knows, right? Well, I you know, a little word of advice. I mean, I can tell you that a lot of the real estate markets have opened up. I mean, if you, in talking to grads just like this on the podcast, particularly the ones that are what I call, you know, monsters in the fix and flip arena, they're doing a lot of transactions. That arena, that fix and flip financing is back to levels higher than pre-COVID.
Yeah, I know it's good now. Yeah, and I just actually closed 2 this last month, like the end of last month. Yeah, so
great.
Sure,
okay,
that's kind of back now. But that's an example of one that, as you know, when COVID hit, boom,
it shut down. Yeah, it shut down for a while. Right.
Gone. Yeah.
I will tell you too that what's going to be coming up is there's going to be in the next couple of weeks, 3rd round of PPP.
Yeah. No.
And we have secured a great. There's a much better than last, because last time it was so many moving parts, but now we secured a firm that's going to be doing it. No constrictions on dollar amounts, and all you got to do is send a link out to somebody. You don't have to collect documents. So just, that's something to kind of prep your mind. I mean, I want to bore everybody's time on here, but
no, that's good. That's good to know you're doing that. Yeah, that was an interesting time. That
for everybody.
That was I in fact I think I probably worked harder that month than I even did working in restaurants.
that's a lot to say coming from the restaurant.
Yeah, but as we talked about earlier, the whole karma thing and all that, I mean, I think I got PPP loans for about 75 businesses, I think. And that's come back to me. I've had a lot of those people who I didn't know in advance. Hey, you've helped me out so much with that PPP. Now, can you help me buy that building? Can you help me finance that equipment?
Well, and the other big thing we're going to start to see in the probably 1st and 2nd quarter is, and we actually witnessed this in the 3rd quarter of this past year, or of this current year we're in, almost out of, is that once the PPP funds dried up, and they still needed money. You know what I mean? So there's almost like that second wave that comes.
Yeah, and especially because of what you could only use it for. I mean, right. I know as a restaurant owner, the position I was in cash-wise, it made no sense for me to take a PPP loan and use it for payroll. It's like, well, I've got all these other bills stacking up. Like, how am I supposed to pay that? So you're right. Yeah, once that PPP money dried up and everyone realized, oh, wow, this is not ending. This pandemic is not ending. What am I going to do now? Yeah, and a lot of, all that work I did and that really kind of stood to me. A lot of those people came back to me and they're now great clients of mine. And I don't think they would go anywhere else for their financing needs in the next 5 years because they trust me.
They trust you. They remember who helped them the first go around.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I mean, it sounds like you're another example of someone who kind of persevered during the pandemic and really persevered through a lot. I mean, let's look back at this. I mean, you close your restaurant, which probably broke your heart a little bit. I mean, that's kind of in your blood. I think anybody who's Irish, that's in your blood, whether you're in the restaurant business or not.
And I had 3 years of blood, sweat, and tears put into it.
Correct. So you triumphed over that. You triumphed in pivoting into a new business model that you didn't really have experience in, and you seem to pioneer that. I mean, Jesus Christ, you got COVID. You pioneered through that. You look great. And I mean, what the hell else can go wrong? I mean, you seem like you 2021 should be a sailing year for you, my friend.
I'm looking forward to 2021, as I'm sure nearly everyone in the whole world is, but I definitely am. Yeah. I'm excited about, like I said, being able to go out and shake hands and network again and all that. I'm very much excited to do that. And yeah, honestly, it sounds corny and I don't mean it to, but just help businesses get past this awfulness that they've gone through and just kind of help anyone I can to recover from it, and I don't mean that to sound like cheesy, but that's just the reality of it,
Well, that is the reality. We all want to see everybody get back to normal.
Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you a question. I probably asked you this in class, but I don't remember, but I'll ask it to you because you're in the business. What do you think's the best Irish whiskey? And this has come from a true Irishman. What is it?
Oh, wow. Probably Redbreast, but like a really old one, like a 24-year Redbreast or something like that. Okay. There is, I'm not going to say the name of it in case someone tries to sue me, but there is one very prominent one in America that is not good and is regarded at home as being not good. So that's all I'll say about that. Yeah.
All right. I'll have to try that. I have not tried that, but I'll have to try that.
Redbreast. Yeah, you'll see Redbreast 12-year a lot of places. They have that a lot of places, but yeah, get an older one. The older the better,
Older the better. Yeah. Okay. One of my lifelong dreams is to go to Ireland and literally for like a week, just go to some like cool pubs and maybe visit some castles. The
beauty of it is it's so small that a week is great. You can see a lot of things in a week. That's the beauty of it,
Right.
You
right.
drive west to east in 4 hours. You drive north to west in 7 hours. That's the whole island.
That's it. Wow.
That's it. So, you know, you can cover a lot in a week.
Are you ready to get hit with some hard press questions here?
Sure.
Kind of off topic. You ready?
Okay.
All right. So, and I ask a lot of people this, and I'm always curious about what the answers are because you guys are all fascinating, uniquely different. But if you weren't in finance, if you didn't attend CCTG and you weren't a great pub owner or previous pub owner, what would be like your dream job? What would you be doing? If you could do anything in the world, anything in the world.
I'll give you two answers. In dream world,
yeah,
I'd be a professional golfer because that's my favorite pastime, and I really wish I was good at it.
Are you good at it? Are you good at it?
I'm okay at it. Yeah, I took it up late. I wish I'd taken it up when I was a kid because friends that took it up when they were a kid are like really good at it. So now I'm trying to get my son really into it because he's so young. But I love playing golf. And then in like, I guess, I mean, maybe dream world, but kind of reality world, an astronaut.
Okay.
I've always been very fascinated with space. It's it's always it's fascinated me.
Me too. See, my problem is I would love to be an astronaut, but I always get sick. I used to get sick on like roller coaster rides and things like that. So I don't think I'd make it actually into space, but I am fascinated by space.
I don't do roller coasters and bungee jumps and things like that either. But once you get past that 2 minutes and get up there, gold.
Yeah, but you got to pass those tests out. Those guys go through the equivalent of like a roller coaster, you know, on steroids.
Be the astronaut that's not needed and take a sedative.
Oh, there you go. Dramamine, maybe.
Maybe so. I'll change that and say I wouldn't be an astronaut. I'd be a space passenger. How about that?
There you go.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do that in our lifetime. Who knows? I mean, they're already close to doing that. Yeah. That's interesting. All right. What's one thing about your life that somebody normally wouldn't know about Ian just by looking at you?
I've done a lot of traveling in my life. Right. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, so that we wouldn't normally think about you. I mean, we already know you know your whiskey, and we already know that you're probably good at golf, but just lying to us because you're Irish. So outside of that.
So you mean something about my personality or characteristics as opposed to something I've done?
Both. Either one.
Okay. I spent 8 months backpacking through Africa when I was 22. Yeah. So when I left college, I had a math and economics degree. I had no idea what I wanted to do. All I knew was I did not want to enter the corporate world. The thought of a 9-to-5 Monday to Friday job was just not me.
Plus, you don't like suits.
Right, there you go. I don't like suits. I don't wear a watch, you know. So I decided to get out of town for a couple of years. So I flew to Egypt, went by land through Africa to South Africa for 8 months by myself. And then flew out of there, lived in Australia for a year, working in a bar, lived in New Zealand for 4 months, working in a restaurant.
Let me just get something straight. You actually, by foot, you traveled out?
I'm not saying I walked. I went by land, like buses.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
It took a lot longer than 8 months to walk through Africa.
Well, that and you're going to get eaten by a lion probably.
Yeah, no, I know, by land. By land.
All right.
I didn't like fly there.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's an experience, I bet.
Yeah, I've done a lot of stuff like that. 2 years before that, I traveled through India and Southeast Asia. I used to do a lot of traveling. But yeah, a great experience, especially at that age. It shows you the world, shows you something outside of where you're from. You know, I wish more people would do it.
Yeah. No, that's one part of the country that it's kind of another bucket list. You know, it's beautiful.
I'm gonna very much encourage my kids to travel when they can. You know, it's very important, I think, to experience other cultures. I think it wakes your mind up a little bit to your life and what you have and what other people don't have.
Absolutely. You know? And it also kind of gives you an idea of where things came from. You know, that part of the world's very old.
Yeah.
People forget that, you know, America's only,
so new.
A couple hundred years old. You know, even when you were from where you're from, or, you know, my parents from Italy. I mean, those are old countries.
Yeah.
And the other one here I like to always ask is, you know, if you could meet with one person and say have dinner with, either that has passed away or currently alive, who would that be? Anybody.
So currently I picked someone different to previously. Previously I might have picked like a sports person or like a rock star like Jim Morrison or someone like that. I think currently in this world, I think I'd pick Thomas Jefferson, even though I'm not American. I'd love to I'd love to show him and his buddies how the world looks now, and maybe they might have set things up a bit different.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I was actually in a conversation with a group of individuals talking about that same thing. Like, if some of even the founding fathers and of this country, you know, if you can plop them right now and get them up to speed in the last couple hundred years.
Yeah, you know. That's why I picked him. So I mean, he wrote. He was one of the main guys of the Constitution, obviously, and he was one of the fathers. So you know, I guess I'm saying his name, but I mean them as a whole. Have a dinner party with all of them, and say, hey, look what's actually happening now, and this is how the world is and society, and you know, maybe they'd have stuck with it, or maybe they'd just have done some things a bit different.
Yeah, sure. That's great. Well, we've come to this segment where you could ask me anything you want, personal, business wise. Don't be shy.
Okay.
I can get anything's on the table, so go ahead.
Okay. I'll ask you the easy one first. Who's been the most influential person in your life, not including anyone in finance or family? It doesn't have to be someone you know personally. It could be, you know, a figure that's been influential to you, or someone you know personally, but not family and not financial.
Well, two people for two different reasons.
Okay.
You know, and I've said this before. If you watch some podcasts, I've probably brought his name up. But you know, one of the individuals that I try to, I wouldn't even come close to the amount of, you know, work and contribution this man did. But Andrew Carnegie. I mean, Andrew Carnegie is someone I really try to model my life after, both professionally, business wise, and personal. Okay. Andrew Carnegie's philosophy, if you don't know, was always, look, in the beginning, you really you get in whatever business you're in, you work countless hours to kind of perfect it, and you never let up. You always constantly refine, perfect it, and then you move into that middle stage of life where then you begin to kind of grow that business and branch out into some other things, and then that what we call the autumn years in your life, the tail end, you give back, right? And so you've already been successful. You achieved, you know, more than a lot of other people, and then it comes time to give back. And that was the story of his life. I mean, he gave everything away, and he was one of the most wealthiest people in history. And that's why you see Carnegie Hall and all these libraries and all these things around, you know, United States that he donated back.
Okay, that's interesting. I never actually knew why they had his name. That's interesting.
That's because he gave all his wealth away. So, you know, and I encourage, I always tell graduates, a lot of the books he had authored and written in those days, a lot of the gurus today stole from, in terms of business, you know, principles of business and life. They took little bits and pieces. So I encourage you, if you're a reader, to read a lot of his books that he published on business. It's pretty fascinating. So Andrew Carnegie, the other person that I've never disclosed on here, I don't even think Joe knows about, because Joe always hears me do these podcasts because he helps set everything up and run them. But when I was in 12th grade, you know, I was a typical boy, you know, getting into trouble once in a while, maybe a fight here and there. What boys do when they're in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And I had a guidance counselor that literally sat me down. I think it was in the beginning of 12th grade, and he sat me in his office, and, you know, I don't know, I skipped a class or something like that. I don't even remember what the reason was, but he sat me down and he goes, you know what? He goes, Kris, you're never going to amount to anything. You're never going to amount to anything. And I took that personally. Like it was a personal thing. And I to this day, I never forgot about that.
You're like, screw you, I'm going to be someone.
And it kind of, I didn't say I hyper focused on it every day, but it's always in back of my mind. You know what, man, I'm going to prove to you, you know, like how dare you sit a kid down and say that, you know, particularly at that, you know, that age. And so that's an influential person that I think kind of caused a little bit of a fire in my belly. Yeah. You know what, I'm going to prove you wrong.
It's great you reacted like that. You know, if you didn't have the character you have, someone saying something like that to a lot of kids, they'd go the opposite way and tell themselves their whole lives they're not going to amount to anything. You know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Good for you that you have the opposite thought. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's, you know, those are two influential people. Anything else?
Yeah. One, because I'm obviously trying to, or I guess meant to ask you things out there, but actually I'm kind of curious your opinion on a financing thing, which is what you view the financing landscape is going to look like, and the business landscape when all this is over, this COVID thing. You know, let's say 12 months from now, 2 years from now, you know, are we going back to where we were, or you think some type of lending products are gone, business world totally different? Like, what do you think?
I think there's going to be a huge market roar in a good way, a bull market, right? I think there's going to be, because again, two things. Once a vaccine comes out, and it already has. I mean, we're hearing, you know, there's a couple companies, but once that gets distribution wise mainstream into society, and they come up with a treatment, which they have. I mean, President Trump took a treatment, right? The so-called cocktail, which by the way was made here in Albany.
Oh yeah,
the company right here in Albany.
Watching a documentary, just to cut across, you're watching a documentary set in Albany this week.
Oh really? Okay.
Not about the best topic related to Albany. It was called The Vow. Have you heard of it?
No, I have not. Have you heard of it, Joe?
It's about Nexium.
Oh, Nexium. Oh, yeah. Well, we've read about all that in the paper. I know. Crazy guy. I mean, mind-boggling of how much mind control somebody can do. But yeah, we'll save that for another topic. But yeah, I mean, so I think once they come up with a treatment, an effective treatment, and the vaccine, I think there's going to be a huge, people are going to want to get out. They're going to want to travel. So I see restaurants coming back. I see new restaurants opening. I see hospitality opening. I see people just going to want to get out. I think the travel industry is going to boom. Things are going to get back to normal, with the exception, and I'm not an expert, but my opinion is what I think is going to, the biggest change that's going to come result out of this is the workforce. Mm-hmm. I think the one asset class that's going to I think real estate's going to boom. Apartment buildings are going to boom. The one asset class that's going to be weird is going to be office.
Yeah.
I think because what's going to happen is this next year, maybe a year and a half, businesses are going to go, well, shit, you know, we could save a lot of money just by having employees work from home. And now we have the technology, and now we've tested it. I think that's going to be a weird game. There's been theories that a lot of office buildings will be converted into apartment buildings. So that might be an arena that we may see in the next couple of years.
Yeah. And possibly the growth of smaller cities, you know, and more rural areas, as a lot of people are told, hey, you can work from home forever. It's like, well, why am I paying $5,000 a month to live in Manhattan when I can go live on the beach and do my job? You know?
And it's a shame. I was just in the city this weekend. I was just in New York City this weekend. I visited some friends of mine. It's sad. I mean, I'm a New Yorker. It's sad. I mean, especially right now, holidays, people are not out. They're not shopping. Like, you know, you used to be able to have to wait in line to see Rockefeller Center, the Christmas tree. Now you can just walk right past it. I mean, and it's an eerie for me growing up to see that. And I don't know how that's going to take shape. I don't know how that's going to recover. But for what we do in terms of financing, I think there's going to be a huge boom, because second quarter,
especially certain industries, hospitality, travel, as you said, they're going to be huge. I mean, you know, even things like concerts and events and all that kind of stuff. I mean, because everyone's just like, yes, I can actually go somewhere, you know. I mean, I know myself that as soon as this is over, the first thing I'm doing is booking a flight to Ireland. You know, I'm like, I want to go home and see people. You know, it's going to happen. Everyone's going to go travel and go eat in restaurants and drink and all that stuff. Yeah.
How are they doing over there? Like your family, is it on lockdown over there, or is everything?
They actually just 3 days ago left their second lockdown. So they had another lockdown for like 5 weeks. Yeah, it's tough. You know, I mean, the whole of Ireland is about the size of Houston, and where I live now in Houston has way more cases. It's just the hospital system there isn't set up to handle the overflow. So it's very much a containment before it gets bad, as opposed to lockdown after it gets bad.
Got it.
So, but you know, I mean, it's basically the same as anywhere that's locked down here. You know, it's just sad and miserable and boring. And obviously it's winter there now, which is even worse. You know, at least in the summer you could like go out for walks and go do stuff,
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Well, any other questions? Or is that all you had for me?
I have one more.
Easy. Those are all easy.
What's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you personally while doing a training class for season?
That's actually a unique question. No one's ever asked that before, Joe. That's actually a great question. What's the most embarrassing thing? To me, or just in general in class?
Most embarrassing thing that where you felt really embarrassed.
Oh man, what the hell could? Oh, actually, I got that one. So let me tell you. I'll tell you two things. Class-wise, we once had a gentleman who, to say the least, was a bit overweight, but was sleeping the whole time in class. And one time I was lecturing, and he was leaning back in a chair. You know, the chair, you're familiar with the chairs we have, and leaning back in a chair, and he literally fell over. Literally just the chair went, and he went boom. And it was, kind of an awkward moment. So that's one thing. And if you talk about, the class in general, the second thing, I guess, to me personally is, we used to have a barber. So we moved into a new office. As you can tell, this is not the same conference room.
Yeah, I think you moved. I think I was the last class in your old one. I think.
Correct. Yeah, we were in the midst of already getting that set up with long build out here, but in the old office there was a barber shop right downstairs.
Yeah,
I was built into the barber shop, right, or built into the building. It was there. It's been there for 80 years.
Yeah,
and I know the owner. I mean, it's a different owner now, but. So as a convenience, I had to get a haircut one time, and my barber was going away for like a couple of weeks and was doing class week. So I said, all right, I'm in class pretty much all the time, but there was a lender presentation. It was about a 2-hour presentation. So I had John, John Cosentino. I had him, he helps me out, and various staff do, but they monitored the class. Said, I'm going to go downstairs and get a haircut. So, and this is doing a live class. So I went downstairs, and the guy, my barber at the time, who's no longer there, but my barber at the time had I didn't know this, but I come to find out he had a drug and alcohol problem. And I remember I sat down in the chair, and I could smell the alcohol on his breath. And I go, this is weird. It's, 10 o'clock in the morning. And he started up with his buzzer, and he was moving like this, right? And I go, whoa, man. I go, you sure you can do this? And he goes, yeah, man. Yeah, don't worry. And I didn't listen to my gut. And this guy cut my hair. And Ian, I'm going to tell you, I am not a prima donna in that manner, but he fucked up my hair big time. I mean, we're talking about, it looked like a 5th grader did it. I mean, there were just, there was lines in the hair. I mean, I looked like some of these teenagers that draw the stuff in their hair. It was bad. And to the point where I literally got up off the chair when I found out this was happening. We were about maybe 8-9 minutes into it, and I just left. But I had to get back to class. And so I literally got back into class, and I said, shit, I got to run class. And I walked into class, and people were like, what the hell happened? And I had to tell them the story. I go, look, I went downstairs to get a haircut, and the freaking guy was drunk. He was drunk.
You probably looked like you got mugged by someone with a razor.
Yeah. I mean, it was like you couldn't even like style it. And my hair's pretty simple. I just, throw gel in it and slick it back, and that's it. I got an old school cut, but it was bad. And so that was probably one of the most, because I had that day, I know people were just in the room, like, and people said, they didn't even stop me in my lecture to go, Chris, I just got to tell you, man, that's a bad job that I did. So that was probably the most embarrassing moment for me.
For another time with something similar is I got a tattoo once from a guy that had Tourette's.
You didn't know this prior?
I noticed just before, but I've been drinking all day. I was with my buddy. Like I kind of didn't care, but yeah. And when I say Tourette's, I mean like more physical symptoms than emotional symptoms. Yeah, it's an interesting situation.
How to come out? I mean,
it's okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, they do have technology now where you can cover that up, but
right. Yeah. It's not somewhere the clothes can't cover, so that helps. helps.
That's good. That's always good, I guess. Well, Ian, what can I say? We said a lot here. Hey, listen, it was my distinct pleasure to interview you, and I appreciate you being candid about your experience.
No, for sure.
A lot of people at this point have watched this, and you know, they have a lot of takeaways. And I think your journey is an interesting and fascinating one, being that, you know, what you had to do, being that you lost your bread and butter, so to speak, and you had to just jump right in.
Yeah, you know, I think an important thing to mention, though, and I'm not just saying this because, you know, I'm doing this podcast for benefit of you guys and what you do, but, you know, I mean, I had a lot of help along the way. I mean, I think that's part of, you know, when other grads or potential grads call me to kind of ask my opinion, it's one of the things I say is, you know, a big part of it is the help after, you know. I mean, I've got Mac's phone number, I've got John's phone number, I can get Alex anytime I want, you know, but, you know, you get a deal and you're like, oh my God, what do I do with this? And your head's about to explode because you're only a month in, and you just call Mac and you're like, look, where do I go? He tells you, gives you pointers. If you want one of them to get on the phone with you, with the lender or with the client, to do that. I mean, that was a big part of it, you know. And of course, over time, I use that less and less, you know, obviously, as I get to know more myself. I think I reached out to Mac last week for the first time in maybe 3 or 4 months to ask him a quick question. But, you know, yeah, I had a lot of help along the way. I mean, you guys are, it's definitely something that, and every grad I've ever spoken to, even the ones I spoke to before I did it, they always say about your company and what you guys do is it's not just like, yeah, great, give us your check, here's your class, see you later, good luck. I mean, that's just not the way it is. And the post help and the follow up is really important. And I mean, yeah, from my end, I'm grateful for that, you know.
I appreciate that. Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And we love doing it. I mean, we love doing it because we hear stories like this. I mean, you know, we try our, like I said, going into this is a relationship. And as you know, when you're in a relationship, married or not married, if one part breaks down, then it doesn't work. Right. Yeah. So you got to do your job. You got your contribution. You got to go out and work the model and do it, you know, but we got to do our job as well. And we try to do that to the best of our ability. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for this episode with Ian Tucker of Grafton Funding. By the way, what is Grafton?
So it's two things. Well, Grafton is actually the name of the most well-known street in Dublin.
Okay.
Yeah, the main street is called O'Connell Street, but just a little, like half a mile up from there is like a pedestrianised street. That's probably the most famous street in Dublin. It's called Grafton Street. And then we also gave Grafton as the middle name to our son. And then I figured I'd also do the company in that name too. Very good.
Very good. That explains it. Well, that wraps it up. Thank you, Ian. Appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can check future episodes and also past episodes. So thank you very much, Ian.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you on the next one. There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. You know, people always say, Chris, how can I be a successful broker? It's 2 words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business.